Well, I'm pretty excited. I'm just about ready to head out on a bike ride down the Missouri River. This is a particularly historic section of the mighty Missouri where Lewis and Clark had to do their portage around the river. They ran into some difficulties when they hit the Great Falls of Montana. Hey, I'm going to tell you about that and show you some beautiful scenery along the way. Stick around. Well, this is one of the dams on the Missouri River. There are several in the vicinity of Great Falls. And right in front of us was Crooked Falls, named by Lewis and Clark, because the falls weren't straight like the other ones. Well, Linda's at home in a nice warm kitchen baking something. And I'm taking a chance on the weather today. It can be rainy and it's supposed to gust 30, 35 a little later today. But since I got this e-bike, I've been looking for excuses to go out and ride, and then it finally dawned upon me, I didn't need an excuse. I'm just having fun. The thing about Montana weather is you never know how to dress. I saw a spoof on YouTube about a person getting ready to go to the grocery store in Montana, and they were loading up duffel bags full of clothing just in case. That's not too far from the truth. I usually end up dressed way too warm, but better too warm than cold. I don't have a chest mount for my camera, so it's just kind of stuck in my coat. It's probably going to be flipping all around doing different things. Well, the Lewis and Clark expedition went from about, I think they left St. Louis in 1803, and they returned in 1806. So they were in this area around 1804, 1805, moving up the river. Not too far down the river, they came to a fork. They're, of course, coming this way, poling upriver and hauling it. My goodness, what a trip. But they came to a fork in the river and they weren't exactly sure which way to go. Of course, that was where the Missouri River met the Marias River, but they didn't know that. So I think it was Clark took the right fork and Lewis continued up the left fork. And Clark figured out that that he was on the Marias, it was the wrong river, so they joined up again. Then when they got to this point, not too far downriver from here, maybe 15 miles, Sacagawea was really sick, and they treated her at a sulfur spring. I know where that spring is at. I've been there once. Can't ride bike out there, but this coming spring, I think Linda, when the weather warms up again, Linda and I had intended to take you all out there. It's out in the middle of nowhere, but we thought it's an interesting spot, so we'll be sure and take that in a later video. Well, I am not used to riding on this kind of trail. One thing this Himiway Escape has is suspension in front and rear. And right now, that's really helping. a lot easier going up this hill with this motor assist, I'll tell you. It's going right up, and this is pretty steep. Well, had to get off it right here, but it's got that walking assist on it, so I just hold the button down and it kind of helps. Well, fork in the road. This sign says more difficult. And this one says most difficult. At least they warn you. Well, I'm out in country now where I've never been before, so this is quite something. This is what's called the Portage Route. I'm going to explain more about that in a minute. So I'm on the River's Edge Trail. Looks like I'm right there. And it goes along the Missouri. Looks pretty scenic. Wide open, not forested, but has its own stark beauty. Don't know how far I'm going to get. Well, I'm at a fork in the trail, and that one says Mayhem and it's got a bicycle on it. No. I just had to shed a layer, got a little warm. That's better than being cold. On June 13th, 1805, Lewis scouted ahead of the main party and heard the agreeable sound of a fall of water, and soon saw the spray arise above the plain like a cloud of smoke. He had arrived at the Great Falls. Watch it go up this hill with me pedaling and sitting in the seat. Didn't make it. Ow! Okay. Oh. Oh, I screwed up. Oh. Oh. Ow. Oh. 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 Fork and a. Ah. Ay, ay. Oh. This fall was the first of 5 waterfalls that was going to necessitate an 18-mile portage around them. And as you can see, it's full of gullies and very rough terrain. They made camp about a mile below Belt Creek, which is, probably 6 or 8 miles down below me here. And that's when they found that sulfur spring, because Sacagawea was really sick. And they managed to take her across and treat her there. They also bled her there, which was something they did back then. Hey, I just want to take a minute for the sponsor of this video, which is Himiway, and thank them again for the Himiway escape that they sent me here. This e-bike is a lot of fun, and it's made it possible for me to get out here on these trails. Now, they are having a big Black Friday sale coming up, just starting a few days before Thanksgiving. I'm going to put the links down below and the information down below this video. And they're offering some pretty nice discounts on their e-bikes, so be sure and check that out if you're at all interested in getting one of these. Now let's get back to the story. Well, this is Ryan Dam. I think there's one dam below this, Moroni. This was a giant waterfall. This would have been the first or the second waterfall that they came to right here. So while camped down below here, they got busy and surveyed the route that they wanted to take and marked it out carefully. They had to build wagons and dollies to transport their dugout canoes on. They weighed a ton each, and they had a lot of equipment with them. And they, of course, they came up by canoe, so they didn't have anything to transport this equipment, not even horses to help them. All had to be done by hand. Yet by June 28th, they had gotten all of their equipment out except for some that they wanted to cache and leave behind, and they got it transported up to a higher camp. During their portage, they encountered bears and mountain lions and wolves and buffalo, and did you know that the grizzly bear was a plains animal up to that time? It was the settlement of the West that drove the grizzlies up into the mountains. At that time, they were out here on the plains, and Lewis encountered one up close and personal. And that's not to mention the rattlesnakes. Now, it was hot, and there was cactus, and they were only wearing moccasins, so the ground cactus and the prickly pear was going right through the soles of their shoes. And then the yucca, or spiked plants also, they had a hard time. The heat was intense. And the men were, they said the men were worn out, fatigued to the extreme, but they were in good spirits. It took them 31 days to go those 18 miles. The equipment kept breaking down. It was just made out of, the wheels for their dollies and for their wagons were just made out of rounds of cottonwood trees. They didn't have anything fancy, and things kept breaking constantly. That's what took them so long, plus all the gear they had to carry. They didn't finish that portage until July 15th, and they still had to cross the Rocky Mountains before winter. They had never seen mountains like that before, and they didn't know the route through. They had to connect up with the Shoshone Indians that they knew were out ahead, and hopefully that they would lead them over the mountains, which they did. But that's the story of Lewis and Clark here on this little section of the Missouri River. Well, the wind is currently gusting 30 and it's right on the nose, but I still got enough battery power left to get me back to the car. That trail got to be way beyond my capabilities. It was turned into like a mountain bike trail that I went down for a couple of miles and had no business being there. But when I finally did turn around to come back, I cut up on a dirt road and found the edge of farm fields, all dirt roads, and kind of zigzagged and around and everything until I finally made it back to where the trail here improved. So I'm almost back to the car, maybe another 10 or 15 minutes, I think. Well, I do hope you guys enjoyed the trip, but if you did, please hit that like button and be sure and subscribe. I'm going home now for some coffee and get out of this wind. See you around.